Have you ever wondered why you sometimes feel unseen, even when you're surrounded by people? Why you sense that conversations skim the surface, like stones skipping over deep waters, but never quite touch the truth? Here's the secret most of us don't admit out loud. People rarely show you who they are. They show you the mask they've learned to survive behind, and sometimes even they can't tell the difference anymore. Stay with me. Because once you learn to see beneath the mask, not just in others, but in yourself, you'll never look at people the same way again. From the moment you were born, you were trained to smile when praised, to hide your anger when scolded, to say, "I'm fine," when you're anything but. Words became your armor. Niceties became your shield. And over time, the mask grew so close to your skin that you forgot it was ever separate. But what if the surface isn't the real story? What if the strongest, happiest, most confident people you know are actually crumbling in silence? What if what you despise in others is really the very thing you're terrified to see in yourself? Nietzsche once wrote, "Every profound spirit needs a mask," not as an insult, but as a warning, a reminder that what you see isn't always what's there. So how do we learn to see beyond it? Let's dive in. The first crack, tension. When someone's mask slips, it often shows up as tension. Think about it. The coworker who laughs a little too long at a joke as if trying to cover something up. The friend who changes the subject as soon as things get personal. The stranger whose smile doesn't quite reach their eyes. These are not mistakes. They're clues, and they whisper the same thing. Here lies the truth I'm afraid for you to see. Projection, the mirror. We fear Nietzsche's sharpest insight was this: we hate in others what we cannot face in ourselves. Have you noticed how the loudest critics often reveal the most about themselves? The one who mocks arrogance is usually insecure about their worth. The one who can't stop pointing out lies may be running from a truth of their own. Psychologists today call this projection, but it's not just a defense mechanism. It's a confession. So when someone lashes out at you, don't just listen to what they say about you. Listen to what they're accidentally saying about themselves. Silence speaks louder than words. Plato once warned that language can be a prison, and Nietzsche agreed. Words are often just costumes we dress our fears in. Watch closely. When someone pauses before answering, when they dodge certain topics, when they give short, rehearsed replies to deep questions, that silence is louder than any speech. It's not emptiness. It's a map of their fear. Virtue as vanity. There is something suspicious about the person who always parades their goodness, the moral crusader who loudly proclaims their purity, the self-appointed judge who corrects everyone else. Machiavelli would have smiled at this, because virtue, when shouted, is often just ambition in disguise. Nietzsche called it the will to power. The louder someone signals their morality, the more likely they're trying to mask what they cannot face inside themselves. Real goodness doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a stage. It just is. The first lies are to ourselves. The biggest lie you'll ever hear isn't aimed at you. It's whispered in the mirror. I'm fine. I don't care. I'm over it. People don't begin by lying to others. They begin by lying to themselves. Dietrich Bonhoeffer once wrote that self-deception is one of humanity's most dangerous habits, because the person who lies to themselves becomes blind to the truth entirely. So when someone tells you a story that doesn't quite add up, don't assume they're manipulating you. Realize they've been rehearsing that lie to themselves for years. Superiority as overcompensation. We've all met them, the person who constantly reminds you of their achievements, the one who puts others down to look taller, the one who dominates every conversation as if silence would prove them small. Nietzsche would smile knowingly, because he knew that superiority is rarely strength, it's overcompensation. Behind the throne often sits a frightened child wearing a crown. True confidence doesn't compete. It doesn't need to prove. It simply is. Fear, the invisible puppeteer. Why does someone over-explain? Why do they dominate a room or vanish completely? Why do they say yes when every part of them means no? Fear, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of humiliation. Bonhoeffer once said that fear is the root of our bondage. It drives people more than desire ever will. So the next time you're trying to understand someone, don't ask, what do they want? Ask, what are they afraid of losing? That's where the truth lives. Confidence is sometimes guilt in costume. Think of the teacher who never admits a mistake, the leader who always seems certain, the preacher who acts as if doubt never touches them. Nietzsche observed that this kind of confidence is often guilt wearing a mask. Guilt for past failures. Guilt for the self they're desperate to bury. The performance of certainty is often just an escape from shame. Exaggeration is a confession. When someone insists, "I don't care what anyone thinks," they usually care the most. When someone says, "I'm always happy," it's often a scream into the void. Exaggeration isn't power. It's insecurity turned up to maximum volume. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Control as a sign of chaos. Some people crave control over everything, their routines, their jobs, their partners. At first, it looks like strength, but Nietzsche warned us, the more someone needs to control the outside world, the more chaos is consuming their inner one. So the next time you meet the micromanager, the dictator, the control freak, don't just see authority. See the fragile self they're terrified will shatter if they let go. Performance as a plea for love. Look at social media, the endless curated lives, the constant need to be seen. To Nietzsche, this wasn't strength, it was desperation. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. When someone is constantly performing, it's because they don't believe they'll be loved without the show. The person who truly knows themselves doesn't need an audience. They are already whole. The gift and the burden of seeing clearly. Once you begin to see these patterns, it changes you. You walk into a room, and suddenly the words mean less than the tone, the posture, the nervous laugh. You realize the arrogant man is just terrified of being overlooked. The woman who won't stop talking about happiness is quietly begging for it. The friend who says, "I'm fine," is anything but. But here's the uncomfortable truth. This ability is not just a skill, it's a responsibility. Because once you see someone clearly, judgment becomes harder, hatred becomes harder. You stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and you start asking, "What pain are they hiding from?" Nietzsche didn't want you to learn this so you could manipulate others. He wanted you to learn this so you could stop being fooled. And maybe, so you could offer compassion instead of scorn. So let me leave you with a question. If every mask we wear is built to survive, what would happen if, for just a moment, you put yours down? Would you still be loved? Would you still be safe? Or would you finally, for the first time, feel truly seen? Think about that. Because sometimes the bravest act isn't tearing away someone else's mask. It's daring to take off your own.